though, on this generally wet, miserable, manky, horrible day. We've moved some vehicles into the dry. To be honest, I'm not changing anything over because we've just got the place warm. The heating system is running flat chat. So I'm going to have an afternoon of playing with my Hilux engine. I have all these bits. And obviously the stripped block crank out of the truck. Oh, I'll just rub my head, wake myself up a bit. So things I need to do. I bought new mains bearings and new thrust washers. Mains are the 5 big ones, hold the crank on a straight axis. Big ends, 1, 2, 3, 4, because this is a 4-cylinder engine, are the ones on the offset axis. So, oh, what's going on? Ah, yes, it's me. So, what I need to do is give it a quick hone. The cylinders aren't bad at all, but to clean them up and polish them up, that's normally the best idea. So, for safety's sake, in the bottom of these cylinders, because this is a turbocharged engine, are what we call piston oilers, and I'm just fishing a piston oiler out now, which is like this little oil jet that pokes up in the bottom of a cylinder. Here she comes, like so, squirts oil at the underside of the piston to lubricate and cool it. So when you go honing, if you leave your piston oilers in, what happens is you whop it with your honing tool. That ruins it. So I'm going to quickly scooch all the piston oilers out. I'll bring you in here in a minute and I'll show you what they are and where they are, quality and brilliant video purposes, so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. And then that removes any ability to whop it with one of these, which is a cylinder honing tool, which we'll get to in a minute, is to clobber the piston oiler with the stones on your honing tool. I'm getting all this. Right, let's set that there, and then if I bring you over here, I can show you exactly what I'm going on about. Yeah, I can if I can get the torch to stay in the right place. I'm just going to put the torch, just going to stay in there. So if you look down in there, you'll be able to see there's one piston oiler, 2, 3, and I've taken the 4th one out up here. So there's a little pipe pointing up in the bottom of the cylinder. You'll just be able to see it there. Look, oil supply, squirty oil at the bottom of the piston. So for proper honing, we're going to go through here a minute, whip all of those out. Well, we turned it up the other way. Now we've taken the piston oilers out, because as you can see, if we had this big object, so this here is a cylinder honing tool, and what we need to do is very gingerly go up and down, just take any glaze, any marks off the cylinders, don't go crazy. I might spin the crank a bit on this side so I don't clobber it like I did a minute ago. There we are. I mean, the cylinders on this are good. There are no marks, but the sort of standard spec, just to tidy them up before you put your new pistons in. So all being well, it'll have taken any glaze, rust off of my cylinders, just put a nice new finish on now. This, as obviously this engine technically wasn't actually worn out, we don't need to do as much engineering to it as we would do to one that was absolutely worn to the end of its days. So if this engine had got to the point where it was burning oil, and it had very little limited compression and all of that, we'd need to do some different type of engineering. Now I'm pretty sure this is just a board block, and there are no sleeves or liners in this engine, as you can see by the top. There's no linered engine has a ring, and this cylinder liner is changeable. So if this was a linered engine, we'd have bought pistons and liners, knock cylinder liners out, put new ones in, and liners are normally 95% of the time cut to fit. So basically your piston, and they are machined finished. So sometimes engines have a cylinder sleeve, which is a much sort of smaller thing, same idea. You smash the original sleeve out, press a new one in, and then you'd cut your cylinders to size. That's normally a machine shop thing, to make your pistons fit precisely. Now we don't need to do any of that, as I said a minute ago, because this engine is not actually worn out. It purely has been broken by someone, not me. And all we're doing here is just literally making sure that the cylinders are slightly dulled off, clean, ready for it to receive our new pistons and our new piston rings. So I'm quite happy with that. We've got a complete set of cross home marks up and down. And we will wash this out before we thoroughly put it together. So that cylinder's fine. That cylinder's fine. Even a little bit more on the end one there, I think. Yeah, she's all right. Yeah. So obviously, and same again, if this engine had been overheated severely, you might want to deck the block. Now, I put a steel ruler across this thing, which I've already done in all directions. This block is not twisted, overheated. We know it's never got hot. So this cylinder face, I mean, it'll want a little bit more cleaning up just to get rid of the last of the marks. But this face between the head and the block is fine. That'll have a new gasket on it. So this gasket set that I've got comes with every engine gasket known to man. So while we're here, we'll pull things like this oil cooler, clean this new gasket, and we'll most likely give this 2L block a nice new coat of paint, make it look a bit smarter. And same again, we want to change both the rear main seal, the front main seal. We'll just go through everything that's in that kit with incense, gets fitted here so that we can eradicate any, not that we had oil leaks, but we want to make sure when we go back together we don't have any. And then we've got to go next, I think really, I'm going to hone on these cylinders, this back cylinder, because he's a little bit harsh just there, which I don't like. I'm going to hone on this back cylinder a bit more, because that one's all right, isn't it? And then what we'll do is going to spin it around the other way, and then we're going to start dismantling it, putting everything in line, ready to put a new bottom end in it, complete. We need to put new pistons in it, and then obviously we need to pull all these outer auxiliary plates off, fit new gaskets, make sure everything's beautifully clean. Got all that. Right, so we've got the point now where really this engine needs to come off this stand. I've quickly stripped, that's the oil pickup pipe, and just whizzed her off. Now to get, really I didn't want to take the crankshaft out of this thing to get at the rear main seal, and the trouble with having one of these engine stands is that yes, I can twiddle it and like spin it through 360 degrees, but I can't gain access at that main seal because I need to take this damper plate off, and obviously I've got the tube in the way. I need to strip the front off really. I suppose I do. Get in there, clean that up, and I want to lift the crank clean out of it. So the only way is to have it here, and I would put it on here. If I put it on here, it puts it up here, makes it difficult to see. This bench is about perfect. So as the block face is quite nice, don't want to be grinding it around, scratching it, so a bit of recycled cardboard. So we're going to get an engine crane quickly, and we'll lift that off of its stand, take the clamp off of it, sit it on here, and then we're going to strip the crank out. Right, so we have the engine where we want it. So basically, you could change the mains bearings with the crank in, but as I want to change every gasket on this, we might as well pull the crank out. So I think it's the centre journal has thrust washers. Now thrust washers are mainly designed for clutched vehicles, so that when you press on this, when you push your foot down on the clutch, obviously you're applying force. The clutch plate bolted on the back of a flywheel. This isn't a flywheel, this is a damper plate because it's automatic. That force then is pushing this crankshaft forward. So there are two thrust washers, normally centre cylinder, to take that force of it moving backwards and forwards. Of course, all the fun and all the force of the engine's yawing it backwards and forwards. So I want to take the damper plate off the back. I want to take this engine shield off. I'm going to start laying all this stuff out. I then need to whip this big nut we put back in here out, and then pull these timing gears, this cam belt drive sprocket, remove this front timing case, and then there will be, in the back of here is the front crankshaft seal, and in the back is the rear crankshaft seal. Yep. So then we need to pull these, our mains bearing caps. So this has this is 5 journals, this block, so it has 5 supporting mains bearings, rear main, front main, and then obviously centre. They're all numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can't mix them up. Actually, the centre is marked with a K and not a 3, so but you still can't mix that up. So they come out they want to be taken out and laid. They've got an arrow all pointing to the front so that you can't put them in the other way around. Be an idiot. So what we're going to do now, we'll go back on the time lapses. I'm going to strip this front timing cover off, strip this off, and we'll pull the mains main cap bolt out. Take the mains out, start laying them out on this bench behind. It means I've got to move more junk over onto that bench. And then basically we are just going to gingerly keep working our way through. We'll pull this down to where it needs to be. And then once it's stripped to almost a bare block, I'm going to need to clean on it again to make sure that no filings and stuff are floating around, because it has been in this workshop covered over now for a few months. And then work all the gaskets out, clean everything, and then we'll start to reassemble. So after all that exciting time lapse, you would have seen me pull the rear cover, or pull the damper plate, so that's the disc with the starter ring on it that joins the torque converter to the back of the engine, basically makes it act like a flywheel. Then behind that you'll have seen the crank seal holder, rear crank seal holder come off. He's over there laid out. At this end, obviously the water pump had to come off, and then we had to use a little puller just to gingerly pull on this camshaft drive sprocket just to pop him off. And in a minute we will need to get the 2 Woodruff keys that are here. Then the front case comes off. On the back of the front case, you probably won't be able to see, it's over here, it's the oil pump. So we will strip and check on that. And what I am doing now is I'm going to pull all the mains bearing caps out and just see. We'll have a look, see what the mains look like. Obviously when these bolts go back in, they need to be retorqued. They are not one-time use only, I think, on a Toyota. I will check it. But things like the sprinters, so if you're doing a 651 Sprinter engine, the mains bearing bolts and the big M bearing bolts are one-time use only, they're stretch. So another useful thing they invented to make you throw things away that there was nothing wrong with. So we'll check these, see if they do have a tolerance. I expect they are reusable, because this engine, the last time this engine was put together was in a factory by a machine by Toyota. So number 1 mains. So this would be the front of the engine, obviously, over here. Now as you can see, there's not much wrong with that. We are going to change it anyway because we've got them. Come on, you. Ooh, he is in there, so we're going to need to pop him out. He is well and truly in there. And then, obviously, if you're rebuilding an engine, you need to look at your crankshaft journals. Are you creeping around on coffee making duty again, Mr. Fudge? Yeah. Blimey, you're like the world's best tea-boy. I've buried it just there. I'm talking to these nice YouTube people about how you rebuild a Toyota diesel engine. I'm trying to explain it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm into me mains. And my mains are... Well, to be honest, I've got new ones. They're all standards. I've had one of them out already to check. But we're not actually rebuilding this engine because it has worn out. We are rebuilding this engine because it got broken by someone.
Exactly.
With an overexcited person with a can of ether. So I'm laying exciting engine parts out on benches.
Oh, so are you going to replace the mains?
Do the mains, the big ends. Basically, the engine kit I've got does every gasket, thrusts, mains, big ends. I didn't buy an oil pump because, to be honest, I don't think that's an original Toyota oil pump. This truck has done 112,000 kilometres.
That'd be fine.
That'd be fine, but I can strip it and check it. It's dismantleable. I will strip it if there's any scoring or any marks. It can go, but to be honest, the nicest of ways, the Toyota original will be much better quality than any spurious.
Yes.
Spurious part.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to sit here and gently watch all these people winch as he taps at his engine with a hammer.
Yeah, no, that's the only way to do it.
That's the only way to knock them out. These are actually, well, because they're actually slightly clamped in on the Toyota.
Yeah.
So that one's nice and easy to come out. So let's line them up facing the right direction. It's the same again. Now, if this was a completely worn out engine, you'd be looking for scoring and bronze, because these are two-part bearings. So when they're actually worn through, you'll get the bronze backing start to show through. Then you are to the point where you definitely need to rebuild it.
Yeah.
And then you would also need to look. So if you had an engine that's, let's say, had a mains, it wouldn't normally be a mains bearing failure, it'd be a big end, wouldn't it? Because the way that engines work, the big ends take a lot more hammering than the mains do, because the big end is on the crank offset. So there are 4 main points of wear on a big end due to critical engine imbalance, rapid acceleration and deceleration of a piston during stroke.
Whereas the mains are pretty much balanced.
Well, the mains are, there is no normal, they don't wear in points.
No.
Because they're just continuously spinning and the load is on them all the way equal. Whereas on a big end, I might stick a link in this video. There's a very interesting German man, if you want to boil your brain, who explains all of this type of stuff. So you can go and I'll see if I can find his video explaining critical engine imbalance. Yeah. I mean, that got the wife. She just went, no! And it's quite good, because I mean, obviously, I have a fair understanding of how whizzing round things and centrifugal force and all the main problems with this type of stuff. And you can watch people actually turn off as I start talking about it. Honestly, you can just
their eyes glaze
you can
over.
just see people shut down once Al's gone off on one of his. Well, that's the reason that the 2.5 litre diesel engine and you don't have bigger than a 3 litre is because of critical engine imbalance and this and that at certain revolutions. But basically, blah blah blah.
Oh, I almost told you there a moment. I left my cat in the microwave.
Wave, yes. Oh God, it's that bloke talking uninteresting stuff again that I don't understand. She was in there, wasn't she? So I remember I said a minute ago about thrust washers. There's one of the thrust washers.
And again, you can tell the wear.
Yeah, the thrust washers. Well, to be honest, I always understood that thrust washers were primarily really for clutched vehicles, because the idea is that as you're loading, because the gearbox has an arm and you're pushing against the spinning flywheel, these things, what's known, so there will be 4 thrust washers, the other 2 are down in there once we've got the crank out, and these washers, they're normally like this, and they take the forces of you pushing on the clutch pedal and shoved, because basically when you push on the clutch on your car, what you're trying to do is shove this crankshaft clean out the front. So basically, I mean, same again, they won't be badly worn on this vehicle, because to be honest, apart from the torque converter maybe moving backwards and forwards and the general engine forces, there's no clutch running, is there?
Yeah, it's automatic.
It's auto. Yeah, well, I was very surprised to find out it was automatic. Which made me quite excited. I was like, ooh, it's an automatic one. As I've got old, I like lazy automatics. I do, I'm sorry. You get in my ML, drive. I mean, one day going to Germany, we did 720 miles in one hit. Which, admittedly, if you're an American, is nothing, because they've got their roads are set up for it, but even roaring across Europe, that is pushing you. Oh, yeah, just get out nice and refreshed. Whereas I did the most I've ever done in a 24-hour period. I drove 1,124 miles in a manual Sprinter, Luton, towing a 20-foot cargo trailer, 20-foot bedded, 26-foot triaxle cargo trailer. We was freighted, and I went here, Cheshire, Manchester, above Carlisle, turn round, back again in the same day. My leg, my knee, oh man. I mean, we left here at 3 o'clock in the morning, coming back past Oxford at like 1 o'clock the next morning. Oh, me leg had it. I had to stop and go and drink more coffee because I got starry eyes and I couldn't see where I was going. And we took Grumpy with us as well, and she was quite grumpy by 1 o'clock in the morning. It was a long day, and I put over 1,000 miles on the Sprinter in a day. I think that was it. I think that it does work out. So yeah, same again. Nothing wrong with that. It's not worn out, but it's going. The outside ones are stuck. They really are quite well in there. Make sure they're not, because I've got one more to take out here because he was quite well in there as well. I've just upset all the engineers by tapping on the end of a shell. Lovely.
Okay. In which case, I am going to go.
You're going to go and turn the kettle on utilage on. Good man. I'm going to put all this here. Don't move any of this, obviously. No, you are well trained.
So then when you come to it, you'll be like, Fudgy, where did I put? I'll be like,
nope.
I don't know.
No. And the wife doesn't come here very often, so she can't turn up and.
Imagine that comes into.
Oh,
like,
God, so no.
All these bits here
I can't put anything on the kitchen table for 2 minutes without her moving it. And then if I mention it, I'll get shouted at.
Oh no.
Oh, you do, don't you? Well, why did you leave it there? Well, because I wanted it, that's why. Well, it's on the table. Well, what about all your shit on the table, darling? Oh, no. No.
That's different.
That's different.
We love
So,
you, Sharon.
love you, Sharon. Yes. Right, crankshaft out. Cool, that's a weighty thing. So we will retrieve. There you are. Look, there's the other two thrusty washers. And then basically we need to pop the other side. Now, things to remember also when doing these bearings. So when you put your new ones back in, you will see it has a hole in it, right? Hole goes over on the oil journal so that the oil can feed into it. If you put it the other way around, or beat it in there wrong, or don't assemble it right, I mean, they have got locating lugs on them, so hopefully you can't get it wrong, but always doubly check. I have seen it done. Then you block the oil feed off to the crank, 10 minutes, she's dead after all of your hard efforts and workings and stuff. So basically, check, double check, and check a bit more. As the great saying says, it's all the P's. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. Something I've always worked on in my life. It works from everything from rebuilding engines to bedroom activity to all that exciting stuff that us men do. Prepare for it, you'll be there. Right, I'm going to go and drink tea, and then we're going to come back. We'll spin this over on its side quickly, strip the rest of the switches. There's an oil pressure switch, there's a temperature sensor, there's the oil cooler out of it, ready so we can clean the block completely, because we might as well clean through all these galleries. We'll probably do that with a steam cleaner, shriek, but we can dry it out afterwards. To make sure that its oil passages flow properly, its coolant passages flow properly, and then we're going to give it the paint in black.
Colour black.
Not in racing red, because it's only Kevin's that paint their engines bright red.
It's not a whole engine though. It's only bits of it.
What, like the whole block, you mean? the thing is just take this plate off. It's been a few years since I've done this and I'd forgotten there was a bolt hidden underneath the thing, you know. So basically that's the water to oil cooler. We've got some new gaskets for that, so we need to separate anyway, but so we'll get this all cleaned out. The housing is over there, and then we'll get in this box and make sure all this is cleaned. There should be a big metal gasket there that can come off. Of course, we've got a new one of those. And then basically we'll keep chomping on. There should be a metal gasket on here. No, he's already gone, hasn't he? And then we'll pull this, probably take this out. These are passage block offs, probably leave them in for a minute. And then we'll get checking all the conditioner. There's some cord plugs in there. And we might even get all excited and replace them. So basically future-proofing it. We'll get in here with a wire brush and knock all this off. And then this block is pretty much stripped, ready for a really good. Put that back in there. I'm going to track down where my other socket's gone to. And this block is then ready for a massive clean down. Make sure she's really, really lovely and up together. Right, we are next evening. I have cleaned this block out of emery cloth, what was I using? Scotch-Brighted. All of these journals to make sure they're nice and clean. Well, that one is grubbier than I'd like it to be. Where is my bit of Scotch-Brite gone? It's there. Let's just get you cleaned off because I'm quite happy with that. And that one, look at things from a different angle, they don't look quite as shiny. Not that this is a particularly shiny engine rebuild at the best anyway, but we'll obviously blow it all down afterwards anyway. So what I want to try and do, first thing I want to get done is I want to put the crank back together before I start making up pistons and dropping them in. So putting the crank back in involves putting the new shells in. So these are the new shells. They are standard. They are not pluses. So with these big end shells, remember I said 1 little minute ago about obviously remembering the oil hole. Now the tops and the bottoms are different. So that is the shell for the cap. Notice no divot. Shell for the block, divot, oil hole. So we have a whole package of supplied brand new shiny ones. Don't want any cack in them, and basically they clip in like that in place. Try not to get grubby fingerprints on them. You'll see the hole lines up with the oil way. They are all the same. So in we go. They've got a little tiny locating lug on them. So you need to make sure that goes in there, and obviously that this lines up. If none of that fits, you have a problem. I'm going to get it grubby, but that's part of life. So basically that is the bottom mains in. That will allow us to sit a crankshaft in, but we obviously have to put the new thrust washers in. They need to go here, so we're going to have to hold them there somehow. This is where grease comes in. So I'm going to go find me thrust washers, drop them in there. We'll put some oil on here as like a pre-lube to allow it to spin, and then we're going to stick. We'll just put a touch of grease on these thrust washers, stick them in there, and then that should allow us to drop a crankshaft back in it. Right, so I have found my new thrust washers. They were in a big box over there with all the other stuff that needs to go in here. So this is, I'm going to put a tiny smidge of grease. This is new thrust washer. Now, as far as I know, there are 2 grooves in this thrust washer, there and there, like oil escape grooves. They go facing outwards. Could be completely wrong, but I don't think I am. There's been no point having them facing inwards. So smidge of grease to hold this just to that face there, look, so it doesn't fall out when you drop a huge great crankshaft in here. Like so. You don't sit in there quite as nicely as I'd like you to. Not just because you're... Yes, that's fine. Right, so that's the thrusts. what I may do I put the piston oilers back in? No, I should be able to put the piston oilers in after I put a crankshaft in. Where is my crankshaft around here? Crankshaft. Actually, what I want to do is just put a bit of fuel on here before I go and drop a crankshaft in it. I mean, you can use engine assembly paste or engine assembly oil. We haven't got none of that at the moment, so this will do. Basically, what we obviously don't want is these faces rubbing together before this engine fires up. But obviously, before you fired it up, you'd be winging it over to make sure that it had oil pressure and the light went out before you started it. But I obviously understand that if you stick that in there dry face, not the best of ideas. Right, this needs to go in here like this without knocking them thrust washers off. Thrust washers are in place. Yeah. So there we go, just tap you down because you want to be there. Lovely. So crank back in engine. Let's just spin that thrust washer back in there. Look at that. So what we've got to do now is we need to clean on these caps, which are the big end caps. Big end caps, main bearing caps. Main bearing caps, that's what they are. And then we'll refit these, just whip them down finger tight for a minute so that this engine, the crank is back in it, and then we can start building it up from there. Remember, I am not a machine shop. This is a bloke in a shed rebuilding his Hilux pickup truck engine. So any comments on, I have it cleaner than that, that's very good. You can, you're free to. Crack on. Right, I think we might as well do this onto time lapses, otherwise you're going to have to stand here for half an hour while I clean oil residue off of these caps, clip things into them and drop them on, which, let's be totally honest, isn't terribly exciting, really, is it? Right, I shall be back in a minute. Right, so a big pile of cleaned mains bearing caps. That is number 2. Number 4. Obviously the centre bearing cap is fairly easy to spot because he's the one that takes the thrust washers. So what we need to do now is clip. We'll start with the centre for some strange reason, because that's what I feel like doing. Give here, thank you. So we need to clip a main bearing in, and you'll see this main bearing is different. He has a little tiny oil drain hole in it, but no oil supply hole like the bottom ones. Needs a little smidge of engine oil. It's almost totally pointless, but we'll do it anyway. We'll call that assembly lube. Because by the time we got it together, most of it's going to have run out anyway. And then you have your 2 thrust washers there and there. Make sure there is an arrow on this pointing forwards, so that needs to be dropped into there like so. And also go number 1, so the front one. Put an oily mark on it, I'm doing well. Clip in, see, same again, you'll see the location lug. So arrow pointing forwards, and then normally the 2 lugs. Well, that's not normally actually, because some engines have them opposite, some engines have them together, but on this particular unit. So I've blown all these holes out, obviously, because you don't want them full of oil and goo and snot and nastiness, because they are torqued down, so you want to make sure that your torques are right and they are not hydraulic in their holes, because the hole's full of oil. Obviously this block has been completely steamed out. And just clean everything as you go. La-dee-dee-dee. Right, so number two. New main bearing. Click it in. Lovely. Facing correct direction. Dropped in like so. Obviously do remember, if you were having a complete numpty moment, you could try and put this crankshaft in backwards. That is obviously the back of the engine. This is obviously the front of the engine. But if you did put it in the other way, it's probably possible for a while before you've realised that you are an idiot and you shouldn't be doing these things. He says. Number 4, facing forwards. Last but not least, number 5. So 5 bearing crank, 5 supporting bearings. Land Rover used to make one with 4. It used to fall apart all the time, and then they changed it to 5. And then they invented ingenium engines. They were rubbish and they fell apart all the time. To be honest, most things in Land Rover fall apart all the time. It's just part of it. This is why you buy a Toyota. I would have upset all the Land Rover people, but I'm very sorry. It's true. You know it is. I used to have a big sticker on the back of my Land Cruiser that said, "One life, don't waste it fixing Land Rovers." I wasted quite a lot of my life fixing Land Rovers. I've given it up now as a bad habit. You're going in there. Yes, you are. Look at that, you little star. So there will be a torque sequence for these bolts. What I'm going to do for a minute is literally just nip them down hand tight so that we can turn the crank, and then we'll go and have a look at the book and see what it says we should be torquing these out. So as we are doing this in the evenings of a week, it is the evening later. We've been doing much exciting stuff today. We have rescued the daughters. Strangely enough, managed to kill a Navara. She's on to the next. So we've saved the Navara. Me and Fudgy towed it all the way from the far side of Dorchester back here this morning. It is outside. And if you watch our face tubes, if you don't, I'm going to put a link in the description so you can go and join our Facebook page, because we put quite a lot of content on Facebook these days. I am fixing big 80 series Land Cruiser in the background, so you can go and have a look at that. So I got a load of grief about 6 months ago off some person on the internet about, apparently, I don't know why we just wear dull black clothes all the time. And I did go back and point out that doing this job, black's really the only colour. So just to make sure that you understood this person, this morning I left home with this very clean grey hoodie on, which ain't never going to be very clean and grey ever again. Idiots. You'll have to put up with the heating noise because it's cold. Anyway, I have consulted the book of words, which is over there. And basically, let me move my microphone so I don't keep rubbing my chin on it, which will be annoying everyone. Put it over there. So my book for this says mains bearing bolts are 50 Newton meters and then 105 Newton meters. So I've got everyone's favourite Squawky torque wrench out, and we're going to go for pulling the 50 Newton meters first. And then we're going to go for pulling the 105 Newton meters, and then hopefully this block doesn't escape. That is not 50 Newton meters, is it? It is. And then we check this crank still goes spinny, spinny, roundy, roundy. And then after that, if that works, then we've got to build up our new pistons. They also came with gudgeon pins and little end bushings. I'm pretty sure little end bushings are going to involve variable reaming or reaming. I don't know. I haven't made my mind up on that. Guess she was tighter than we thought for. Because basically this engine was not mechanically worn out, so there is a thought that says if it ain't broken, the pistons is, but whether we put new little ends in it or not, I don't know. I'm going to make my mind up on that one. Whether I feel the need to spend hours with a reamer faffing around. 100 degrees end. Right, adjust, stupid torque wrench. No, that's not what I wanted. That was not what I wanted either. See it, that's the one. Right, so we'll go one over. This will go wrong because I never get the right button. Actually, no, we'll go one back over there. Go back. Right, one. Right, that was not what I wanted either. Right. Yes. Yes. No, that's 100 degrees. I do not want 100 degrees. I want Newton meters. Yep. No. Oh, just pack it in, stupid thing. Honestly, it isn't really, it is me. Because I don't use it very often. And it never do quite what I want it to do. Right, and again. End. So, let's try. That was the off button. That was not what we wanted. Right, 105 Newton meters, finally, after the swearing. Oh, gold. That is going to try to escape, isn't it? I'll go over them twice for quality purposes. Yep. Go green, thank you. Oh, we're going there next, aren't we? I know the beeping is annoying, but it does work quite well. And it wasn't as expensive as the Snap-on one was. Even though the Snap-on one did work slightly better until it broke. Which I will get to at some point. Right, let's just go back over these again just to doubly check. Yep. 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 La 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 la. Yep. Done. Right, does it still turn? Yes, perfect. Right, that's good. We sort of knew it was going to do that anyway. Large blowy thing blowing behind me, but without the large blowy thing that you watched us fit the other week, it's quite cold at this time of night in there. So these are the original pistons that got broken, not by me, I would like to point out. So basically, we need to be saving on the con rods, which are these pieces here, or if we use the correct name, they are connecting rods. So basically we need to swap the pistons over because these ones are all rubbish. We have new rings, pistons are over there, we will bring them over as needed. We also have new big end bearings this being the big end, because it's bigger than the small end, which is the other end. It's fairly self-explanatory. And then we need to make sure we keep these sort of in a reasonably correct order for a minute, so that we don't nose it all up and put everything on backwards. You got that? And as you can see, this engine was definitely not worn out. These bearings are pretty good. There's a little bit of scoring on them, but that's sort of what you'd expect out of an 80 or 100,000 mile engine. So we're going to put that back together, because obviously with these big end caps, these are all machined together. Now these are the older school ones, which are, because modern engines you find freeze broke ones. So instead of spending the engineering to cut this, like make two parts, cut it, machine it, what they did was they make it as one, machine it, freeze it, snap it. So it is, I mean, they are technically, you need to put the right one on the right one, but freeze broke ones, if you get it the wrong way round, it can all go horribly wrong. So these are proper old school. So we need to gingerly tap. This is a gudgeon pin. So a gudgeon pin goes through the middle of a piston, through the small end, which is in there. And then, now I've covered myself all in gook, you're learning here, aren't you? Unless you knew this already, then you're not learning anything. So here are my new small end bearings. Now a small end bearing, you'll see, it's not like a two-part one, it is sort of like pressed in there. So I would assume there's a fair chance that these are to size. You dope. So we might have a go at changing them, and then if the new gudgeon pins, which are here, don't fit through them, then we have to ream them, which means we actually have to cut some material out the inside of them to get this to tightly fit in that once it's hammered in there. So that technically this piston, these rings, that pin, all of that's junk. We just want this bit. So we're going to get a hammer, because we're good with those, and then basically we're going to try and tap this pin out of here, because we don't want that, as I said a minute ago, so that we free this connecting rod completely, throw this away. But what we do need to remember is the orientations of where that was pointing at this. So if you can remember that the valvey bits is pointing at the bit of piston that says 5 and 3, so that this not piston, con rod that says 5 and 3, so it goes back in the same way, not 180 degrees out. And if you haven't remembered, I can go back and review this video footage when I've forgotten, and then I can tell myself the right way to put it in. So I've toddled off over to my toolbox. Let's get a bit of tissue in my mouth, I do not know. Just let the noisy oil pump over there pump some oil to the heating system and shut up again. That's working perfectly, by the way. Got this random socket that I found, and I'm going to use that to gingerly tap this gudgeon pin out of this piston enough, which needs to be a little bit more than that. Oh, there I was quite free, to allow me out my connecting rod. Yes, I think I'm going to change them. So, you very occasionally with engines get little end knock or little end wear. Now, little end, obviously little end, big end. Big end knocking, really, really bad, because obviously that's these machine shells. I mean, this all comes down to oil, basically, oil and wear. So the idea being that oil is pressurised into this through the holes in the crankshaft, and then there is a hole in here somewhere. I've got a hole in here to feed up to me. Where's my little end just done by? Well, my little end must be done by. I think my little end is splash fed. Of course it is. So the little end is, sometimes you actually have a machined hole up the centre of the con rod, pushing oil up to a little end, but this way it looks like it's splash fed. So those, where are they? Those piston oilers that we had the other day, we took out, or earlier in this video, squirting oil up into the bottom of this piston, they are lubricating the little end by the look of things. Of course, there is no oil pressure hole up the middle of my con rod. No. Anyway, so little end. I'm going to have to hit that more, aren't I? I mean, it is scrap now, so it doesn't really matter what I do with that bit. Give it here. I'm not going to, are you? Am I going to need to really, really hit you? Yes. Fall out. No, you're not having that. You're going to need something longer to hit it with. Actually, let's just use this vice here. Now, you wouldn't do this if this thing wasn't scrap, all right? You don't want to go putting your gudgeon pins in a vice because you'll mark them and then that'll ruin them. So a second ago we were saying little end, big ends. This is big end. So big end's basically clipped in here. So the main thing that holds these two steel metal surfaces apart is oil pressure. So basically pressurized oil into these shells. The crank has an oil pressure feed in one of the main journals, and basically it has oil flowing through it. We have blown it and washed it out to make sure, because what you do need to remember, if you ever have big end failure, you have your crank reground at an engineering shop, is to make sure you flush your crank through when you get it back, because it will all be full of bits of metal swarf, depending on the quality of your engineering shop. So oil pumped into here. The oil keeps this bearing away from the crank. That is the sort of spinny lubrication bit. So when you have failing oil pressure or lack of oil pressure, that causes big end and mains bearing failure, even little end bearing failure, but normally these, because this journal is taking the most force, spin, no oil, heat, and then the two weld themselves together, chew themselves up. And also on the other side, like it was a couple of years ago now, when we changed the old 616 recovery truck engine, which had failed, but actually that engine had failed purely because these at 500,000 kilometres or 700,000 kilometres, whatever it was, had actually worn out, these and the mains. And then these had actually spun in their journals where they got so thin, they'd broken away from their lock tabs here, and the things had actually spun inside on the crank, and then that was night lights out. She started to knock and it was too far past. That was when some idiot called Colin told me I was an idiot because I got a really good quality low mileage engine and put it in it instead of spent a fortune rebuilding the Mercedes one that was completely tossed. That's another story. So what I now need to do is to look at changing this little end bearing for the new one that's here, because what happens when little ends wear, I mean these should be pretty reasonable, is you get movement. I mean there is none there. You get sideways wobble. You'll start doing that is because your piston is basically travelling up and down on this gudgeon pin flat out. Splash lubrication on this, so the oil raining down that's sprayed at the bottom of the piston will drop into here, keep this bush lubricated, and it gives you like a little end knocks, normally a tackety. I've only ever had it on one vehicle in the entire time was a 325i BMW, and it only did it because it had been starved of oil on one cylinder. So we need to change these most likely. I mean they aren't bad, but so I says if you're going to do it, you really ought to do it properly, isn't it? So I'm going to disappear off, figure a way of pressing that one there out, and then getting this one in here lined up in there new, and then we'll get this out, and then we'll go over there and get some pistons, put some rings on, and we're going to build a complete new assembly, and then we're going to need to do 4 of them before we go in there and fit them back in there. And you've remembered what the number was in here I needed to remember, haven't you? Right, let's go and have a bit of a clean up. And for anyone that goes, hey, I didn't build an engine like that, I'd have an immaculate clean room and blah blah blah, you're very good, go and use your own. This is sort of fairly old school. It'd be lovely to be stood here in a beautifully clean pair of overalls having steamed all this down in a white room with a big shiny toolbox, but that's not the way my life works. We're back again. So 4 little end bushes, all changed. I've got to ream this one, I haven't done it yet, that's next on my list. So you will see here, rings fitted, new pistons fitted, gudgeon pins fitted, little end bearings fitted, little end bearings hand reamed to make them fit. So what we're going to do for a finish up on this video, because it's getting on for an hour, we had to make ourselves an exciting tool to get your little end bushes out, because you've got to be able to press these in and out. And as you'll see, normal little end bushes are like a square, it's flat-sided, these ones. Listies, we had to get exciting with a grinder, a bit of a milling machine, and a bench grinder to make ourselves a tool to press them in and out without damaging them. So what we're going to quickly do now, glasses, is we're going to fit piston rings. So this is the last set of piston rings, the last set of big ends. All these are made up. So basically, there are 3 rings on this piston. So we've got 2 compression rings and an oil scraper ring. Now obviously all these rings are different. So you will see that these nice bags, this bag says second. Yeah, second ring down from the top. Top, oil scraper, and then inside of an oil scraper ring is a little sort of metal spring thing that fits inside of there. So this is how you do it. So basically these little scraper springs they pull apart, so you can cheerfully take your piston. Actually, if I move those pistons there, we just gingerly put these over here because it won't hurt them. So there's the old little end bearings. That was the first attempt. We got much smoother by the second one. So you want to put this scraper spring in here, and then you've got a little tiny piece of metal that joins it together. She is in. Now with engines there's a lot of things you can do and a lot of things that you don't need to do. So basically, if you were building a really good tight compression racy type of engine, you'd want to go through and check all your piston or your ring gaps. So you take something like this oil ring, slot it into the cylinder over there, and then feeler gauge this gap, and then you can file these down to get the perfect gap. What we are going to do, because we all sort of know that these are right and right to fit and good enough for what we need to do, we're not doing that. We did check the first set to make sure that they are all the same, they all fit, the cylinders are all good, and this is a 2.4 litre turbo diesel Hilux engine. If it was a big posh race, high compression race engine, or a drag engine, or we really needed it to make loads of power and we needed it to be absolutely perfect, we'd spend a lot more time at it. So basically these pliers are quite handy for that. They're flat edged on the side, they're not horseshoe pliers. That is my bottom oil scraper ring in. Now, things to remember. Most rings go in one way and they are marked. And the scraper ring, we checked and checked and checked and checked. There are no marks on that. So we're now going to go for our second ring. So if you look on this second ring, whether you're going to be able to see it or not. So it says there in very, 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 very tiny little lettering. So it says 2, so second ring, and T being top. So basically this ring will have a chamfer on it in one direction or the other, and it needs to go in like this. So second, yeah, top. Same procedure. These can be a tad more tricky because they do like to spring around all over the place. Don't go crazy bending them out because you can snap a piston ring, and they like to do that too. Don't do that, piston ring. Oh, hang on, we have visitors. Don't know who that is. So pop this one down in here, fit it. It's going to go and find out. Dee. Right, after a prolonged amount of tea drinking and yattering, because everyone came to say hello because it's Saturday, and then I got faffing around with me. Where have I put them? Oh, here. My pliers was a bit stiff. I'm going to go cleaning on them. So, where were we? Secondary compression ring in. You'll see it says, well, you won't be able to see, but it says T2, so we're at the top. So last top compression ring, same again. It says, we'll come over here if you can see it, T1, so top 1. Very gingerly try and squeeze it apart, because the last thing you want to do is break it. Or mark your piston too much trying to get it in. There we go. Come on, yes. So basically, one built piston. This needs to go back in once I've done some more reaming. But I'm waiting for my new reamer to turn up because I've worn out my old hand reamer. It's getting a bit chewy, so I don't want to do that. So gudgeon pin is here. These are your mains bearings. Mains bearings, talking out my arse again, big end bearings. So big end bearing wise, it's simple install. Remember these go, so you see the locating lugs, look, lug. So you take your new shiny shells, these are all cleaned. So that sits nicely in there, lug, and then basically you want to put your other one in here. Like so, see, clipped in, and then these lugs on these go on opposites to each other. You'll probably struggle to see it with the angle of the camera, but one there. So we'll put that back together for a minute. That will do for this video on engine rebuilding, because to be honest, you'll see in the background, and we'll take you over there in a minute, I've got my recovery truck back, which we need for Tuesday, but Simon has slightly broken it. So I've got a bit of fabrication, welding and excitement to do there to get it body wise. It's not actually the truck, it is the recovery body is broken in the beaver tail. So I think that's going to be the rest of my weekend, and then we'll move the camera over there because we have a massive workshop clear ready for the large spray tank to go here for painting of a Capri next week. Fudgy's got the week off because I'm not here, so he has been told to make it blue and shiny, which he's going to do. And then basically once it's painted and lacquered, the glass can go back in, and then there's an engine to put back together and the car can start to be rebuilt. And then also the car does not need to be in here in the dry continuously, because it will be painted, sealed up, and it can live outside in between bits going in it. So as you will see, we have a flying recovery truck, because the bits of aluminium chassis rail that support the beaver tail have slightly died. So my job for today is to revolutionise that and make this back where it should be again. And you'll see there is a massive space. So once this lot's wheeled out of the way, Fudgy is going to throw a massive paint tent here. The car is there. And then we've got him some assistance for panel moving. Stuart's going to come give him a hand. And then he can make that thing, that shiny Paris blue colour. And I will leave him with a phone and see if I can get him to do a little bit of footage. So we will just sort of... So I am off to France, Citroën and Renault collecting. So you will see that fairly shortly. If you haven't gone and had a look at our merchandising shop, please do www.60diesels.co.uk, 60dieselsdorset.co.uk, link in the description. Nora's is all done. Matey is coming to pick that up in a couple of weeks' time, obviously, because he said don't panic, because obviously we're not here, so that's perfect. She got a return of 3,800 quid, and there was a couple hundred quid out of that that went to, on top of that, sorry, that went to the Dorset Air Ambulance. So that worked really well, guys. Thank you very much. And I've got a lovely, lovely fella who's donated us a headstone, which is amazing, but you'll see that coming. That was just unbelievable. So we've got to go and sort that and pick it up, but that'll be a later thing. Right. Let's go hacking lumps of steel and making replacement bits for a truck to get it going for Tuesday. That'll be fun. Thank you very much. Al, 60 Diesels.